Academy Award-winning actress Brie Larson has had supporting roles in romantic comedies like The Spectacular Now and Trainwreck. But in Lessons in Chemistry, she gets to tell a love story of her own. Part of my initial interest in this story is that love depictions are so sacred and so important, and how they come to you, and why they come to you is part of the magic of this life, says Larson, who stars in the lead role of Elizabeth Zott in the Apple TV Plus series. It also means it's very hard to grapple with. Deciding how best to show that struggle and bringing the narrative drawn from Bonnie Garmus' novel of the same to TV is something Larson worked on closely with as an executive producer with showrunner Lee Eisenberg, who developed the series. Embodying Zott, a chemist who can no longer rely on the predictable when she falls in love with research chemist Calvin Evans, Lewis Pullman, at Hastings Laboratory and suffers an unimaginable loss, was a challenge for Larson. "I'm just far more emotional than she is," Larson tells The Hollywood Reporter, explaining that she would do takes where she would let out a big cry to release her emotions, and then get back into character. Elizabeth's just not a crier. She doesn't have access to that. Yet figuring out how to depict a woman who doesn't have to sacrifice her mind for love, but does have to learn how to be open to receiving it, was rewarding. "It was so nice for me to be able to do something that's loving and sweet, and not always talking about the darkest things that are happening in the world," says Larson, whose latest film, The Marvels, in which she stars as Captain Marvel, is currently in theaters. "I think it's a very sweet depiction of how to work with someone you love, and the fact that their minds and their uniqueness and specificity and their love of science is what brings them together, I think, is very sweet." How does it feel to be on a press-run post-actors strike and finally able to promote this project? "Oh, I'm so excited just to be able to hear what people are getting from it. We spend a lot of time thinking about it, and daydreaming about it and working on it. So I'm just excited to hear what came through and what's resonating with people." What about this story most resonated with you to make you want to take the reins as both the lead character and executive producer? "I cannot overstate how important the character of Elizabeth Zott felt to me from the second I started reading the book. The tone was really what got me, and what surprised me. Because I think a lot about tone as someone who makes things. It's a dance of not making something less dark or scary as it is, but also making it in a way that allows people to get closer to it and actually consider it or contemplate it. I felt like in the book she did it so well. And that, to me, felt like the biggest thrill and the biggest challenge of this. I also think that the confluence of science and love is ultimately what it's grappling with, of which one we organize our life around, and realizing that it's both. It's about process and care and being meticulous, but there's also chance and randomness. And I think love falls into that. It can't be contained. You don't know when it's going to come. So to feel that those are two things that are butting up against each other in this show just felt really rich to me. How does your experience working on a period TV series like this compare with your other projects? I will say about 2 weeks in, I got really confused because my whole world, aside from when I was asleep, was the 50s and everybody's dressed in those clothes, and they're the only cars I see. And the Hastings Laboratory was one giant set. Everything was connected. At one point, I had to remind myself, I'm in downtown LA. My name is Brie. But you're so immersed in another world, and it's really cool. Putting on her costume, for example, is such a departure from how I dress in my day-to-day life. That from the very beginning helps get into the mindset of what it is that we were making.